The kitchen lights glow under a soft haze as Rachael Ray, ever radiant in her trademark apron, sprinkles fresh herbs over a bubbling pot, an image of warmth and effortless joy. Yet, as the camera pans out, the familiar clinking of utensils fades into a distant echo, replaced by the hushed beeps of hospital machinery. This is no ordinary episode. Behind the cheery banter and 5-minute meals, a storm has gathered. Rachael's announcement of a devastating diagnosis has rippled through living rooms and social feeds alike, and her husband, John Cusimano, stands at the threshold of goodbye. In the space between the bright set lights of their shared dream and the sterile whiteness of a hospital wing, a love story faces its most profound test. John remembers their first meeting like a well-worn recipe, simple ingredients mixed in unexpected measures. A chance encounter at a mutual friend's party, where laughter over guitar chords melted into a promise of forever. He was drawn to her infectious energy, the way she could transform an ordinary moment into a culinary adventure. Over the years, their marriage became a partnership beyond the spotlight. Late night label readings in the pantry, impromptu kitchen dance-offs while dinner steamed, and whispered dreams of family beneath the hum of the refrigerator. They built a life on shared passions, from charity cook-offs to long drives where Rachael planned her next show and John tuned his guitar, the soundtrack to their everyday magic. Now, that very soundtrack pauses. The diagnosis, a rare form of blood cancer touched by the aftershocks of Lyme disease, arrived like a sudden downpour. It was an afternoon of clipped words and clinical tones delivered across a small table in an exam room. John's heart thudded so loudly he worried the doctor might hear it. He watched Rachael's face as she absorbed the truth, her usual sparkle dimming for a heartbeat. In that moment, the roles reversed. The woman who had borne countless headlines with grace became the patient needing comfort, and John felt the weight of every promise he'd ever made to protect her. He took her hand, guided her through scans and consultations, becoming the anchor she could cling to when waves of fear crashed in. Each step, countless appointments, endless nights of uncertainty, wore on him, yet he pressed forward. He learned medical language he'd never spoken, organized schedules that felt like strategic campaigns, and navigated insurance mazes no one should ever know exist. Between chemotherapy drips and MRI results, he found brief respites, a shared smile over a borrowed cookbook in the oncology lounge, a late-night serenade in her hospital room when the corridors were empty. In those fragile pockets of time, they reclaimed pieces of their old life, reminders of the fierce bond that had weathered every culinary critique and career crossroads. Contrast paints every heartbeat now. The man who once teased Rachael about her flair for presentation now finds himself trembling at the sight of her shivering under a blanket. The laughter that once echoed through their kitchen is muted by the hush of a waiting room. The vibrant woman who spun golden recipes into breakfast television gold rests motionless, her energy sapped by treatments. Yet through it all, John witnesses an unbroken spirit. He watches her transform pain into purpose, raising awareness, comforting fellow patients, and demanding every bedside moment be etched with courage and a dash of humor. Even on the hardest days, she reminds him why they fell in love, her resilience, her defiance against anything that dares to dim her light. As the prognosis grows more uncertain, John prepares for the unthinkable farewell. It isn't a moment of drama, but a tapestry of quiet gestures, the gentle brush of his fingertips against her hand, the way he tucks her hair behind her ear, the soft reading of her favorite passages from cookbooks they've loved together. He's crafting memories as if they were heirloom recipes, each one meant to nourish his heart long after the last page turns. In the glow of a single lamp by her hospital bed, he leans forward and speaks into the hushed promises of a love that transcends illness, vows that every aroma of basil or citrus will carry her spirit back to him, assurances that her legacy will outlive any diagnosis. And yet, farewell is not capitulation. In their shared silence, John clings to hope's embers. Every week brings new scans, new possibilities, and a fierce determination that they'll reclaim the life they've built, the ladder, the travel, the late-night kitchen experiments. He peppers the waiting room air with optimism as richly as Rachael seasons her signature dishes. But beneath the guarded hope, he also readies his heart for loss, forging an inner resilience that mirrors his wife's own legacy of reinvention. In this story of light and shadow, their love stands at center stage. The man who once cheered from the wings now holds the lead role, guiding the story through its darkest chapters. And though the final curtain may loom, every step John takes beside Rachael is a testament to a bond seasoned by decades of shared dreams, laughter, and unshakable faith. As fans watch and world newsfeeds buzz with updates, The real story unfolds in the quiet moments between beeps and breaths, where a husband prepares to say goodbye, armed only with love's fierce conviction and the memories they've baked into the heart of their life together. In the quiet alcove of her hospital suite, John watches Rachael drift in and out of sleep, her breathing soft rhythms beneath the machine's hum. Each exhale carries a mix of hope and exhaustion, and he finds himself measuring time by these fragile moments, 3 gentle breaths, a pause, another sigh. The nights are the hardest. When the world outside dims and eager fans disperse from social feeds, he's left alone with the steady tick of the clock and the weight of every unspoken fear. He presses his palm to the cool side rail of her bed, willing her back from the cusp of dreams he fears she might not return from. He recalls their earliest years, the whirl of a budding show that catapulted her from local cable to nationwide stardom, the exhilaration of their first 5-minute meal segment, and the double takes they'd share when the ratings spiked. Back then, his role was simple support, tuning her guitar for guest musicians or taste, testing the latest recipe in their cozy Manhattan apartment. Their life was a mosaic of laughter, late night flights, and the clatter of pots in a kitchen that knew no curfew. The hardest part isn't remembering that joy, it's reconciling it with the sterile reality before him now. Through the day, John becomes both caregiver and cheerleader. He learns to navigate Rachael's complex medication schedule, the anti-nausea drips, the immune boosters, the steroids that leave her restless. He sets alarms so precise that he could recite them in his sleep. In between doses, he reads aloud from her favorite cookbooks, Olive Garden and all, hoping familiarity brings comfort. He gently adjusts her blankets and fetches ginger tea when the chemo side effects churn her stomach. At times, he feels the raw tension in his own shoulders and releases it with a whispered apology for not being enough to take away the pain. Outside the room, hospital staff become characters in their unfolding drama, the soft-spoken nurse whose kindness is a lifeline, the oncologist who peppers his prognosis with carefully measured optimism, the dietitian who crafts bland yet nutritious dishes that Rachael picks at with diminishing appetite. John treats them all like allies in a covert battle, sharing smiles of gratitude as if to say, "We're in this together." He's learned to conceal the tremor in his voice when he thanks them, to mask the fear in his eyes when he absorbs the latest scans. Because Rachael, even drained of energy, still wears hope like a shield, and he can't let that falter. Between appointments, he retreats to the small waiting area with a view of the city skyline. He resolves battles of silence there, battles between pessimism and the fierce optimism he learned from Rachael's never-say-die spirit. He pores over fan messages on his phone, hundreds of notes wishing her well, recalling her kindness at charity events, praising her cooking hacks that changed their daily routines. Some messages recount how her shows rescued viewers from loneliness or lifted spirits in hospital beds across the country. He prints a few to display by Rachael's bedside, a gallery of faith reminding her that she's never really alone. Despite the gravity, John infuses moments of sweetness and normalcy wherever he can. On a crisp autumn afternoon, he rolls his homemade soup on a cart into her room, pumpkin bisque, her own recipe scaled down to a portion she can manage. She smiles weakly, spooning a few bites, and for a heartbeat, the world outside the hospital walls disappears. He finds joy in that small victory, as though they've just filmed another cooking segment. Only this time, the audience is invisible, and the applause is in her returning appetite. Evenings bring poetry. When the corridors fall silent, John pulls out his guitar, a battered instrument from his pre-Rachael days, and plays the songs they once shared on open mic nights. His fingers stumble at first, rusted by time and grief, but settle into familiar chords, the tune of a song they wrote together, lyrics about chasing sunsets and stirring hope. He watches her hand twitch in rhythm, eyelashes fluttering, as though the music is coaxing her spirit home. No matter what tomorrow brings, he vows to keep playing, to keep weaving notes into a lifeline that might tug her back from the brink. Through all this, John's own heart oscillates between two truths, an unwavering belief that Rachael will emerge victorious and the sobering understanding that the road ahead may lead to goodbye. He carries both in his chest, a fractured hope that alternates between beating strong and faltering under its own weight. He confides in late-night phone calls to his closest friends, brief, raw conversations where he allows himself to cry, to question, and then to steel himself again for the dawn. Sometimes in those dark hours, he pictures the kitchen at home, the scent of garlic sizzling in olive oil, laughter echoing off tile walls, the reassuring clatter of a wooden spoon against a mixing bowl. He imagines Rachael perched on their countertop, feet dangling, eyes alight as they test a new sauce. He clings to that vision with almost frantic need, as though recreating that scene could rewrite the present. And yet, even if the farewell comes, he knows that memory is a sacred recipe no illness can spoil. Outside, media outlets speculate, will the cooking queen return to the screen? Will her husband bring her recipes to bedside broadcasts? Tabloids spin timelines for her comeback, but John refuses to let public timelines define their private healing. Instead, he balances each news alert with a gesture of care, a gentle hand on her back, a bookmarked chapter from a comfort novel, a whispered story from their early days. He becomes guardian of her narrative, ensuring that every public update, no matter how tentative, is tethered to the truth of their lived experience. As Section 2 closes, the update on Rachael's condition remains unsettled. Scans are pending, and doctors caution against assumptions. But John's commitment is unwavering. He fights to keep hope glowing in every aspect of their day, a new tea flavor to try, a promise of a gallery visit once she's stronger, the plan for a simple walk in a nearby park when spring unfurls its blossoms. The choice between hoping and preparing for loss is a tightrope he walks daily, arms outstretched for balance, every step an act of devotion. Even as the sun rises on another uncertain morning, John rises earlier, moving through the pre-dawn hush like a guardian on watch. He tiptoes past the nurse's station, gathers fresh linens, and softly arranges them by Rachael's pillow. He breathes in the antiseptic-scented air, then closes his eyes and summons their home the faint aroma of lemon zest, the low hum of her laughter, the warmth of apricot light streaming through their kitchen window. That memory is his talisman. It steels him for the day's first consultations, lab draws, and the inevitable news updates. Today's scan results arrive at noon in a curt email from the oncologist's office. John reads the words twice. Stable disease. No new lesions. Continued monitoring. Before exhaling a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. It isn't a cure, but it's a reprieve. He grips the message in his hand, the printed paper crinkling like a fragile promise. He carries it into Rachael's room, where she lies with eyes closed, the faintest tremor in her restful breath. He slips the note under her hand before she even opens her eyes, then watches as confusion melts into relief. No new tumors, he whispers. We've bought more time. She squeezes his fingers and curls into a smile that feels like a lifeline. They celebrate with tea and toast, lightly buttered slices of multigrain bread he's toasted golden, crackling with warmth under her teeth. He tells stories of fans who sent encouraging postcards, reads excerpts aloud, someone in Iowa who tried her slow cooker chili recipe, a teenage cancer survivor who credits Rachael's shows with giving her hope in hospital beds. Each anecdote is a stitch in a tapestry of support, proof that her illness has sparked a community rallying around her. She laughs quietly, her spark returning, and for a moment they are transported from the sterile walls back to living rooms across the country, where her culinary magic once reigned. But celebration gives way to reality as afternoon shadows lengthen. Rachael's energy dips, and John guides her to a recliner by the window, where she rests with a lavender ice pack on her forehead. He reads from a newly gifted memoir, a woman's journey through hardship, hoping its words will infuse her spirit with renewed courage. Sometimes his voice cracks, betraying his own exhaustion, and she reaches for his hand to silence his inner storm. It's okay, she murmurs. I'm still here. Those two words carry the weight of worlds. In the quiet lull, John sketches ideas for a possible homecoming episode if Rachael regains strength, perhaps a segment where they cook their favorite comfort meal together, camera rolling not for ratings but to mark a milestone. He imagines the headline, Rachael Ray cooks after cancer diagnosis, life, love, and lemon zest. It feels bold, almost defiant, and he files the thought away for a day when hope feels less fragile. Late afternoon brings the Charity Foundation team with whom Rachael has long partnered. They arrive with updates on the upcoming food drive, gala sponsors, menu tastings, live stream plans. John watches as they describe tables of donated produce, children's programs in food deserts, cooking demos in shelters. Rachael's eyes light with purpose, even weakened, her vision for nourishing others remains unshakable. John steps in to finalize details, her proxy, her voice, ensuring her mission moves forward even if she cannot stand at the event podium. He is the keeper of her legacy, the hand that steadies the aim of every philanthropic arrow she's ever loosed. When the day's last visitor leaves, John settles beside Rachael and turns on a soft playlist of love songs they once danced to in their living room. He encourages her to rest. She closes her eyes, and he traces the contours of her face by lamplight, Every freckle, every line, a testament to decades of laughter and resilience. He hums along to the melody, a ragged lullaby, hoping the music will weave a gentle dream around her. With her breathing even and calm, he tiptoes out and returns to the waiting area, where he finally allows the quiet to wash over him. In that solitude, he confronts the twin specters of hope and fear. He scrolls through updates from medical journals, searching for breakthroughs while bookmarking clinical trials that could offer new treatments. He drafts letters to close friends, sharing tempered optimism but also acknowledging the unthinkable. And he prays, not in words but in silent oaths, to be strong enough for the struggle, to carry Rachael's torch until she can stand beneath its flame once again. Night brings its own trials. The chemosteroids leave Rachael restless. She paces the room in her slippers, the rhythm echoing in the narrow corridor. John guides her gently back to bed, reminding her that rest is the battlefield's first victory. When she finally lies down, eyes heavy, he reads her favorite cookbook pages, descriptions of rich sauces and decadent desserts, as if the words might rekindle joy. She drifts off, a small smile on her lips. He switches off the light but lingers, watching her sleep, memorizing the rise and fall of her chest. Before leaving for the night, John leans in close and whispers promises into the curve of her ear. He vows every sunrise will find him at her side. He pledges to remember the woman beyond this illness. The friend, the partner, the chef with 1,000 perfect recipes for love. He swears that if tomorrow brings darkness, he will be her unblinking vigil, her steady heartbeat in the silence. Then he presses a kiss to her temple and retreats, slipping away so softly the room seems to exhale at his departure. Outside, the corridor lights flicker off one by one. John steps into the night air, phone in hand, and sends a brief update to their inner circle, family, closest friends, essential staff. 2 words, stable today. He tacks on an emoji of a heart. It may feel like a small bulletin to the world, but for him it's a declaration of battle lines drawn. He pockets his phone and inhales the cool breeze, letting the weight of another long day settle. And though every fiber of his being aches with longing for home, he carries with him the glow of that morning email stable. No new lesions. More time. In the hushed darkness, John makes his way to a nearby coffee shop open late, craving the familiarity of a lad. He finds a corner table, gazes at the city lights, and allows himself a moment to grieve the interruption of their life's recipe. Yet even in that somber quiet, he feels the pulse of determination, an ember stoked by love's unwavering flame. He imagines Rachael waking to the scent of coffee and knowing that, no matter what today brings, she is not alone. He sips his drink, collects his thoughts, and when the clock chimes midnight, he resolves to carry hope forward into the next sunrise. As dawn creeps into the hospital window, John stands quietly by Rachael's bed, reflecting on the journey that led them here. Every scan result, specialist consultation, and late-night vigil has brought them to this fragile moment. He revisits the doctor's words from yesterday, stable disease, no progression, like a sacred mantra, balancing between relief and the knowledge that stability can dissolve at any time. In this liminal space, hope feels both brittle and vital, urging him to cherish each breath they share while bracing for the next curve in their path. He gently brushes a loose strand of hair from her forehead, anchoring himself to the small acts that matter most every day. Outside the private realm of care, John navigates a more public battlefield, media queries, and social speculation. He crafts every statement with painstaking care, honoring Rachael's privacy while acknowledging the community that has supported her for years. When a press agent calls seeking any hopeful news, he politely declines to comment, then follows with a brief, sincere note of gratitude. He sets clear boundaries for interviews and reschedules appearances indefinitely, all while ensuring her fans understand how much their love sustains her. Even in this careful dance, he recognizes that controlling the narrative is a way of protecting the woman he adores from rumors that risk dimming her unbreakable spirit. John's mind drifts back to the press junkets and cooking tours they once embraced without hesitation. He remembers walking through crowded airports with Rachael balancing carry-ons and cooking knives, both of them laughing at the chaos they curated. In Paris, they flouted convention with a makeshift kitchen in a hotel bathroom, improvising with rolling pins and espresso cups. In Nashville, they set up a barbecue demo behind a stage, the air echoing their chemistry. Those adventures, once punctuated by endless applause and triumphant selfies, feel like borrowed moments. Yet those memories infuse him with strength, reminding him of the fearless woman whose passion and creativity transformed every city into home. In the hushed moments after dinner, John and Rachael share a heart, to heart about what life means when faced with its fragility. He tells her how her laughter has been his compass, that every meal she crafted was an act of love that nourished more than bodies. She confesses fear sugar nor spice could mask, the terror that illness might steal simple joys like hand-holding on chilly mornings. They examine what truly matters, not ratings or record sales, but the weight of kindness, the spark of curiosity, the comfort of shared quiet. In that exchange, they carve a promise no matter the outcome. Their bond will transcend seasons of health and sickness alike. One afternoon, John arranges a surprise gathering in the hospital courtyard, a small circle of close friends who have shared Rachel's journey from its days. They come bearing homemade muffins, flowers, and notes adorned with recipes and memories. As Rachael is helped into a wheelchair, her eyes brighten at the sight of familiar faces. Laughter bubbles among them as they recall the time she fell on live TV, turning embarrassment into an ice cream joke, or when John accidentally set off the smoke alarm testing a skillet. In that oasis of warmth, they forge memories, a picnic table laden with comfort, signaling that love can thrive even in sterile hospital corridors. After everyone has left, John returns to Rachel's side with a worn journal in hand, a gift from their first anniversary. In its pages, he records observations on her mood, lists recipe ideas for her return, sketches an outline for a segment titled, Healing with Flavor. He writes not only to track progress but to capture moments of joy. The way Rachel's eyes light up over a fresh pomegranate arrow, her laughter when he improvises a kitchen pun. Through this ritual, he charts a future beyond chemotherapy suites, affirming that their creative partnership remains unbroken. Each word he pens is an offering of hope, a promise written in ink and intention. As the section draws to a close, John's unwavering resolve glows like embers beneath ash. Steady, persistent. He knows the days ahead may be fraught with tougher battles, but he carries a truth. The love that blossomed in a kitchen can withstand the stark walls of a hospital ward. Each recipe they created symbolized partnership, and now he honors that covenant with grand actions, from managing her medications to plotting future escapades in their kitchen sanctuary. Though he prepares for the possibility of goodbye, his heart refuses to yield. In every gentle touch and whispered story, he reaffirms their promise to savor each moment carved from adversity, a celebration seasoned with love. Tomorrow's sunrise renews hope and invites next battle. In the hushed glow of early morning light, John slips into the hospital chapel, an unassuming room of pale walls, wooden pews, and stained glass windows that scatter color onto the floor like fragments of hope. He sits alone in the front row, hands clasped, recalling every moment he and Rachael have shared, the way her eyes crinkled when she tasted a perfect risotto, the echo of her laughter as they tested a new 5-minute meal challenge in their cramped test kitchen, the heartfelt conversations woven between mouthfuls of her latest culinary creation. Here, surrounded by flickering candles and the soft murmur of his own breath, he gathers strength for the day's coming trials. Earlier that week, the oncologist suggested a new clinical trial, an experimental immunotherapy that might kickstart Rachel's immune system into attacking the cancer cells more aggressively. The promise felt electric but also risky, potential breakthroughs shadowed by possible side effects harsher than what she'd already endured. John pored over medical journals at night, reading case studies and trial protocols, mapping out worst-case scenarios. He called the research coordinator daily, negotiating appointment times, arranging transportation, and ensuring every logistical piece aligned perfectly. He's become an administrator of hope, a role he never asked for but embraces with fierce devotion. When the trial coordinator tours them through the gleaming research wing, John holds Rachel's hand as they pass rows of glass, fronted labs and whispering staff in crisp, white coats. He listens attentively to the doctor's careful explanation of infusion schedules, monitoring requirements, and potential reactions. Every technical term, cytokine release, autoimmune response, phase 2 efficacy, becomes a brick in the foundation of their next strategy. He asks probing questions. Will she need steroids afterward? How long is the recovery window? Could a mild fever trigger complications with her thyroid? His voice is steady, though a tremor hides beneath the surface. He must be both patient advocate and protector, filtering every detail through the lens of Rachael's unique strength. That evening, back in her room, John prepares a simple lemon and ginger tea, her comfort drink after treatments. He arranges it beside her, the steam curling like a silent promise. She looks at him with gratitude, whispering, "Thank you for always fighting with me." He squeezes her hand, gestures toward the tea, and says, "One sip at a time." It's an echo of their approach to life, bold flavors tempered by patience. They share a quiet smile as the tea's warmth seeps into her palms, and for a moment, the clinical aroma of antiseptic gives way to the familiar scent of their kitchen at home. Over the next 48 hours, Rachael undergoes her first infusion. John parks himself in the reclining chair by her side, notebook open on his lap. He tracks every drip rate change, records her temperature and blood pressure at preset intervals, and annotates his notes with small glimmers of humor, a doodle of a chef's hat to mark when she jokes about needing a souffle recipe for hospital food. He quotes lines from her favorite cooking show, bits of dialogue meant to coax a chuckle or distract her when fatigue settles in. In those quiet hours, he becomes storyteller, nurse, partner, every facet of their love converging in a single mission. On the second night, she develops a mild fever. The nurse activates the cold packs, adjusts her AV rate, and reassures them both this is expected. But the metallic taste of worry seeps into John's chest. He strokes her cooling forehead, murmuring encouragement as though his words could cool her core. He recalls how she once saved him from panic when he misplaced his guitar before a critical jig, reminding him that he'd forgotten the guitar was hanging on the back of a chair. Now he borrows that same calm, repeating to himself, "This is part of the plan. This is part of the plan." By dawn, the fever breaks, and with it comes a cautious optimism. Rachael sips broth and rests, her breathing steady. John sends a brief update to their tight-knit group of confidence, phase 1 done. She's tough as nails. He tucks his phone away, then leans in to kiss her temple. "We did it," he whispers. Her fingers grip his arm, and he feels the familiar pulse of her spirit, steady, resilient, ready for whatever comes next. That afternoon, under a sky washed in spring sunlight, they wheel Rachael out to a small hospital courtyard that boasts a few potted herbs. Basil, mint, rosemary, mirroring the garden Rachael tended at home. John gently guides her wheelchair to a bench where they sit side by side. He surprises her with a small picnic basket, slices of sourdough bread, a cup of chilled gazpacho he blended in a portable blender, and a wedge of lemon for zest. She tastes the first spoonful, and a genuine smile breaks across her face. For a few minutes, the world beyond cancer disappears, replaced by the simple joy of a fresh tomato soup spiced with cumin. He watches her savor each bite, storing that image in his heart as an antidote to the hardest days. When evening falls, they return to the room and watch the sun's last rays filter through the window. John recounts details of the clinical trial, what they learned, how they'll adjust for the next infusion, questions to ask the doctor in the morning. He suggests they plan a small celebration if the next scan shows improvement, a private dinner in their apartment, the table set with candles and garnished plates, a reprise of their first anniversary meal. She nods, her eyes bright, and whispers, "I can't wait." As Section 5 draws to a close, John feels the weight of both worlds. The sterile urgency of medical protocols and the warm embrace of personal rituals. He knows more challenges loom: upcoming scans, unpredictable side effects, the ominous possibility of setback. But he also knows their love is a recipe that has thrived on adaptation and creativity. Just as Rachael transformed humble ingredients into moments of magic, he will continue transforming fear into action, uncertainty into plans. Every sip of lemon tea, every note in his journal, every courtyard picnic is a testament to their unbreakable bond, a bond that no diagnosis can sever. Tomorrow's sunrise may bring new battles, but he will meet them with the same unwavering devotion that has carried them this far. As their 10th day in the hospital dawns, John leaps into motion with a quiet urgency born of unyielding devotion. He checks those alarms once more. The next infusion runs at 3 o'clock, and he vows to be there before the sun hits its peak. Time has become both friend and adversary. Every minute could deliver hopeful news or demand newfound resilience. He chooses to treat each moment as a precious spice added to life's recipe, knowing that even a dash of hope can transform the bitter into something palatable. He flips through each page, smiles at hopeful margin notes, and quietly promises to bring her home before blooming hydrangeas mark spring's return. Later, in the infusion suite, he stands sentinel beside Rachael's recliner. The plastic tubing loops over her shoulder like a lifeline, each drip a reminder of their shared struggle and steadfast love. He loads his journal onto his lap and writes as the solution flows: temperature, pulse, conversation lulls, and the small victories. Her ability to smile when the nurse teases that hospital gowns could use better tailoring. He recounts aloud a favorite dinner anecdote from their early engagement, eliciting a soft chuckle that lights her eyes. Between sterile beeps and hushed whispers, John weaves ordinary warmth into this clinical cocoon. determined that hope will never lose its flavor, forever deeply comforting unwaveringly. Back in her room, he finds Rachael scanning through fan art and heartfelt letters taped to her bedside. Each drawing of steaming bowls and handwritten notes becomes fuel for his determination. They're more than tokens. They're testaments to how one woman's recipes became secret ingredients for hope worldwide. He selects a folded note from a young mother who credits a 5-minute meal tutorial with reclaiming family dinners lost to hectic schedules. John reads it aloud, and her hand finds his over the blanket. In that shared moment, they feel the weight of gratitude and community, a reminder that their private struggle has sparked countless ripples of connection and courage beyond any hospital wall. In the afternoon lull, John maps out a tentative schedule for when Rachael returns home, a blend of gentle routines and celebratory milestones. He imagines mornings spent browsing farmers' markets for the season's first cherries, afternoons editing new recipe drafts together, and evenings hosting a small circle of friends for a welcome-back dinner. Simple menus that center on fresh produce and shared laughter. He marks the calendar with hopeful notations: first post-treatment meal, tentative cooking, episode brainstorming session, a family picnic in Central Park. Each entry is a declaration of intent. Life will resume. Joy will reclaim its rightful place, and the kitchen, the heart of their love, will once again hum with possibility. As night falls, John returns to the chapel for solace. He lights a candle for each day. Rachel's courage has outshone despair and kneels before the flicker, murmuring words of gratitude and pleading for strength. His whispered prayer isn't scripted. It's a raw dialogue with whatever guides this journey, a vow to stand firm whether the trials ahead bring triumph or farewell. He leaves a single tear on the quiet stone floor, a testament to love's depth and vulnerability. Stepping into the moonlit corridor, he carries the candle's glow back to Rachel's room, determined that even the smallest light can banish the darkest shadow. Even the softest warmth must be kept alive. By dawn, the infusion day ends with Rachael resting peacefully, a fragile victory counted in steady heartbeats. John tucks the blanket around her, his hand paused above the covers as if afraid to break the calm. He leans close and promises this will not be the end of their story. Outside the window, sky flushes pink with morning light, giving a chance at renewal. He steps into the corridor and breathes the hush of possibilities. In that moment, John knows the road ahead may twist in ways they cannot foresee, but he carries one unwavering truth: their shared love story remains unwritten, waiting for them to pen its next chapter together. Today, as word of Rachael's journey circulates across news outlets and social media, John stands at the intersection of support. He reads each comment, messages of encouragement, photos tagged 5 Cook with Rachael, stories of families reclaiming dinner routines through her guidance, and stores them away as armor against the unknown. He knows many will label this chapter an ending, but he refuses to let crowded narratives dictate their outcome. Instead, he pictures viewers tuning in for a comeback series, publishers awaiting her next cookbook proposal, and the scent of garlic and basil heralding her return to the kitchen. In every cheer she receives tomorrow, he vows she will feel the echo of every heartbeat, rooting for her recovery.